What's up, everybody, and welcome back to After the Snap. I'm your host, Tasha Pierce, and I'm bringing you another movie review. And this one is for a Netflix original, and it's an older one. This is not something that just dropped, but it does fit into the spooky season vibe, and that is Fear Street 1994. So if you want to know what I thought of Fear Street 1994, then let's go. Okay, so Fear Street 1994. This is an Netflix original film. Let me give you the synopsis. After a series of brutal slayings, a teen and her friends take on an evil force that's plagued their notorious town for centuries. This has a runtime of 1 hour, 47 minutes. It is starring some young folks. We have Kiana Madeira, Charlene Amoya, Georgia Rutledge. I don't know if any of those names is ringing a bell for you. They did not ring much of a bell for me. It was directed by Lee Janiak, and it released on June 28th of 2021. So, Fear Street 1994 is a teen horror mystery joint. It's based on the Fear Street book series by RL Stine. So we get to know the setting and some backstory through some montages at the beginning of the movie. They tell the stories of two very different towns, Sunnyvale and Shadyside. Now, the names should give you an idea of what we're working with here. Sunnyvale is unicorns and butterflies. It epitomizes everything we love about small town living. Dare I call it idyllic. Then we have Shadyside. Shadyside is Gotham City in a small town. Chaos and anarchy reign supreme. Not to mention a murder rate that rivals Cabot Cove, Maine. And if you get that reference, you are definitely about this TV life. This is the first of a trilogy of films. It's set in 1994, and the vibe is like Stranger Things met Scream. The cast is young adult, but they seem younger than the young adult cast that we met in Scream. And I'm digging into that because I don't know if these kids seem younger because I'm older and they're really like in the same age range, or was it because even when I was younger, people my age was playing teenagers in these movies, not the 40 somethings. But in 1994, I would have been 22 years old, and the people who played in horror movies as kids were older than me. So I guess that's where I'm going. In any case, if only there was a piece of technology that would allow me to find out exactly how old these actors and actresses are. Oh, but wait, there is. So I did. I looked at our handy dandy Google, and I found out that, yeah, it's just me. These kids is pretty much grown. Like the Kiana Madeira is 29 years old. Well, she'll be 29 this year. She's playing somebody who has to be like 16 or 17. Then Benjamin Flores Jr., he looks to be the baby face of the group, and he is, but he's 19 years old. And I guess to have these kids playing in this kind of horror movie, they would have to be older, especially since we get into some sexual content as well. Spoiler alert. It's not heavily sexual, but there is a couple of spots, and it all fits within the horror movie tropes. So it's not something that was a stretch to have it in there. It's weird for me because the more I think about this, I'm really old watching this movie. I guess while I am using the internet, I can see that Rotten Tomatoes, the critics loved Fear Street 1994. They gave it an 83%. The audiences were not as enthusiastic, but they didn't hate this movie either. 63% of the audience said it is worth the watch. So that is good news. It's always good news when we see something that is made for Netflix be that well received by audiences. I realize that I am not the intended demographic for this set of movies. That doesn't mean that I can't enjoy it. And for the most part, I did. And for me, it was more about seeing the horror movies from my day show up in this horror movie for this generation of young folks. And again, like I said, there was things about this movie that was very reminiscent of movies from my heyday, and that made it enjoyable for me. It's just as predictable as any other horror movie, especially when we're leaning into the camp about these movies. And that's what this series seems to be, really leaning into the campiness. And these are the kind of movies that the young adult audience might gravitate to more. I can appreciate the campy nature. I can appreciate the callbacks to the 1990s horror genre at that time. I can appreciate the callbacks to even the movie Scream, where they laid out the blueprint for what to do and not do in a horror movie.
There are certain rules that one must abide by in order to successfully survive a horror movie. For instance, number 1, you can never have sex. Big no-no! Big no!
Dead man.
Sex equals death, okay? Number 2, you can never drink or do drugs. No, the sin factor. It's a sin. It's an extension of number 1. And number 3, never, ever, ever, under any circumstances, say, "I'll be right back."
I'll be right back.
And we see a lot of the rules being broken in this movie. But because I'm watching it from a standpoint of, I really looked at these kids like they were young. They're really not as young as I thought. But I looked at it as, I felt a little more urgency than I did with the Scream genre in that era. Because, again, now I'm looking at these as kids, like, oh my God, these kids. And yes, we lose some kids. We lose some kids in this. If you're not ready to see young folks getting killed in all kinds of creative ways, do not watch Fear Street 1994. I am not saying that this is a horrifyingly scary movie. What I am saying is that it's a horror movie. And it has monsters and that kind of thing in it. And people will die in the movie. And if you are above or beyond seeing a character that is younger than you get offed in some, like I said, some very creative ways, this ain't for you. But I think that most of us can suspend our disbelief long enough that we know these children are not really dying on screen, and that this is just a callback to when we were younger. And if you are a younger audience, then I'm not trying to spoil it for you, but I've seen this 100 times already. Not saying that it was a waste of my time, but I'm saying it ain't nothing new under the sun as far as in this here horror movie. The bad guys in 1994 are the monsters that we expect from the era. A costume figure in a skull mask, a masked figure with a chainsaw, and a deranged young woman with a razor. We see some tropes from scary movies from that era as well. One person has an encyclopedic knowledge of the town's urban legends. A couple who engage in the naughty, they break one of the cardinal rules of surviving a horror movie. And just when you think it's over, there's always one more kill. So all the things that we've seen before, but this time with kids who really look like kids to me. Fear Street 1994 could be paying homage to a lot of movies or mocking them. Depends on how you look at it. The script is very campy, and the kills are not winning any awards for visual effects. But I do believe that there's just enough there to elicit reactions from a younger audience and to give us old folks a little mild entertainment with the nostalgia that's in this movie. At the end of it all, I like the first of the Fear Street movies, and I plan to cover Fear Street 1978. Now, on my 1 to 5 scale, I'll give this a 2.5, keeping in mind that I am a little older than their target audience. So, tell me your thoughts on Fear Street 1994 in the comments below. Leave a like and subscribe with notifications turned on so you will never miss a future download. And then keep your eyes open for my next review. Thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate you as always, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.